and introduce myself a little bit. Truly appreciate you spending some time, and do not pay attention to the man behind the curtain. And if we can get rid of the radios, unless you have to respond to a call, I get that. But if you're kind of on the way, that would be pretty cool, needless to say. With that done, Dennis Rubin, hello, glad to have you here. We've got a slide presentation I'd like to share. And we're going to start off with the first slide. And the first slide is our, just a minute. And the first slide is our newly designed, high quality, digital logo. This one is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. So that's one we're going to use. But you notice with the new one, what else is up there?
Stars.
Yeah, 3 stars. I asked the other class and they said, oh, it's been here for 15 years. Also, I thought it was funny.
Okay.
Yeah, just saying. But with that said, each of the stars is going to represent a tenet, an element of our new mission statement. I think you're going to like it because I'm going to ask, can anybody tell me what the old mission statement is? Can anybody tell me how it starts? It's like a paragraph or two, and so far I've probably seen about maybe a little bit more than half of the department, and we're still batting 0. So we're going to tune it down a little bit, and I think you're going to enjoy that. Again, Dennis Rubin, glad to be here. Here's what the stars look like. I'm going to ask you the first component of our revised mission statement is prevent harm. What does prevent harm look like? Uh-oh. What does prevent harm look like? And if you whisper or mumble, I'll never hear you. What do you say? If you don't look at me, I'm still going to ask you. What do you think?
Doing your job correctly.
Doing your job correctly. Child safety seat installation, smoke alarms, fire prevention inspection. How about this? Bringing a hose line in a building and stopping the fire from extending, preventing harm. How about helping a victim that is bleeding and we bandage that person up, preventing harm? So pretty much all that you're expected to do focuses on preventing harm in the community, yes or no?
Yes.
The next star says that we will survive and thrive. What's survive look like?
Go home every day.
Take care of ourselves.
Go home every day.
We're safe.
Perfect line. I like that. Look at that. Very nice. We're making all kinds of designs. So survive says we go home at the end of the day, we report back to our family for duty. Oh, well, maybe not that official, but you get the idea. And that we take care of our family and life goes on. If we don't survive or if we get hurt, it causes a whole nother series of problems we'll talk about a little bit later. And then what's thrive? What's the difference between survive and thrive? Survive says what?
Maintain.
And what is thrive? Exceed our expectations, at least have a good job, reasonable, good place to work in, you feel good about. I heard a couple folks already talk about promotability. Thrive, to be very happy, to be very settled, to have some joy at your place of work. Is that right? And then the last tenet, the last star speaks to be nice and be kind. What's the difference between nice and kind? This is really hard stuff, isn't it? We should be getting paid a heck of a lot more because we're actually rocket scientists. Right, maybe not. Be nice to me is kind of a state of mind. Perhaps holding the door open for somebody saying hello. Be kind is taking be nice and putting it into action. What do you think? So there's 10 words up there on the board. Can anybody help me with them again? Prevent, harm,
Survive.
and thrive,
Be nice
and be kind. 10 words. Can we remember those? And they're phrases, none are in sentences. To me, it's pretty easy. Represented by 1 star each. What do you think? Yeah, probably a better way of doing business. And it says it's very simple but very powerful. Thank you for being a part of the organization. Huh? Wait a minute. What are you talking about? I got paid a couple of days ago. I got it. I know that you did. However, there's been a fair amount of stress for the past couple of years. Yes or no? Yes. Oh, you got the cards already. Were you in another class? Thank you, and thank you for being repeat customers. Now, with that said, you guys can't answer a lot of the questions. You already know the answers. With that said, and getting beat up on probably a regular basis, what did you do? Not even one left? Smoked it. What did you do during the difficult times? This is not hard, for real. What did you do? And keep going, yes. You did your jobs. You went out and you handled the medical calls 35,000 times, and you did it without complaining or ever showing the customer. You went to fire calls, same. Hazmat calls, rescue calls, fair statement. You did what you were asked to do, even though it was kind of tough around here. So let me tell you, working with your consulting firm, working with the city administration folks, I got the message. You guys got beat up pretty good. So thank you for what you did. It is noticed, it is acknowledged, and it is appreciated. Fair? We also want to make sure that you understand there's really one major key to success. And what's that key? You are. Who's going to put out the fires? Who's going to handle the medical calls? Who's going to go to the hazmat, the rescue calls? Shall I keep going? It's you, and you. Big deal, correct? So again, the key, the number one issue, the number one concern is taking care of you. Leadership will support our members, and I'll see to that, and we'll continue to be great together. Artificial barriers, artificial obstacles will be removed. We just have to do that. Our role is to refocus the department on what's important. We want to keep the main thing the main thing. All right, what's the main thing? Remember? Now they won't even speak at all. Now I've done it. Now I've done it, Captain. First and foremost, you've got to take care of you. What happens when you don't? Can't do your job, simply put. Got a quick story about that later. And number two, once again, what we're saying is your mission is your sworn duty to the citizens and visitors of this great city. Is that a fair statement? If you go back a ways, probably the early 80s, there was a young lady that was a firefighter in a place called Prince George's County, Maryland. You may have heard of it, sometimes it's in the news, pretty big place. She's assigned to a ladder truck that day. The ladder truck gets a call to an apartment house on fire. She's a few seconds late getting on the apparatus because everybody was ready to go. She hops up, does not put on her seatbelt, does not put the drop bar down, which nowadays it's 4-door. Back then it was a 2-door model. And as they're turning right out of the fire station, she's taking off her station boots, trying to get on the turnout pants and other turnout gear items, and she slips and falls out of the jump seat. Sandy Lee is struck by the tandem rear wheels of this rear mount, 100-foot, 1979 model Seagrave. She's dragged 32 feet across the apron. She becomes a trauma code. What's a trauma code? And again, if you don't identify the paramedics quickly, I know you have at least 3 gold chains. Paramedic battalion chief has 4. Paramedic assistant chief has 5 gold chains. Is that right? Did I get that right? Something like that. All right. So what's a trauma code? What's a trauma code? For more paramedics, he wouldn't help me. What's a trauma code?
Bad situation.
Bad situation, but give me a little bit more specific. What's a code?
Stops.
What's trauma? This is not hard.
You're dead,
It's
so you just have to take this
multi-system.
off.
So she's really in a bad way, yes?
Yeah.
What's the survivability profile for a multi-systems trauma group? How did all these phones ring when it was my phone? Don't ask me. It's just science. So about less than 1% of the time, a person with a trauma code survives. What say you?
Yes.
Sandy Lee will lose her right leg, will lose her left leg up to the knee. She gets transported to a place called Prince George's County General Hospital, which is a level 1 trauma center. Pretty big deal operation. She gets transported there by air to Baltimore Johns Hopkins, Baltimore shock trauma, which is interesting, from one level 1 to another. I can't answer why they moved her from one place to another, but they did. She's in the hospital for just about a year. She has 400 pints of whole blood transfused into her body. And the article that she writes describes that as the person that has received the most blood transfusions in the history of mankind. Don't know whether it's still true, don't even know what was true at the time, but 400 pints of whole blood being transfused, yeah, that's kind of a big deal. After that year and a little bit of rehab, about 2 years later, she returns to work. Missing her right leg, half of her left leg's gone. Oh, did I tell you that the contents of her stomach were eviscerated? Again, that's another word I don't understand. Yeah, all of her contents of her stomach are outside of her body now. On a dirty, filthy apron like we have, or driveway, whatever we call it, in every fire station in America. How she didn't die by infection is crazy in itself. Yes, yes. Can she be back as an active, standard, regular duty? No. She comes back as a fire prevention educator, and then they assign her to work with folks that have handicaps. Oh, how cool is that? She's in a wheelchair. She's got that, and she does an incredible job, a great person. Another thing they ask her to do is to put together a videotape about her experience. And at the end of the presentation, with all the details, they've got a couple of really horrible pictures of her being operated on. Just nobody should have to see that, but use the idea. Don't wear your seatbelt, don't use a drop bar, could be you. She says that day, because of me, the truck company she was riding on did not get to the apartment fire. Because of her, the pumper company, you know how hard I've had to work on not saying an engine company? The pumper company didn't get there. The medic unit, which is an ALS ambulance, didn't get there. The ambulance, BLS ambulance, didn't get there. And the battalion chief never arrived. What were they all doing? Taking care of a multi-systems trauma patient, Sandy Lee. What is wrong? And is this my phone?
Yeah, it's mine, you can use it.
How come your phone's ringing when mine does?
I don't know.
It's my daughter.
What are you, girls?
Sorry, sir. Just being my silly self. At any rate, the guy keeps calling me back, so. Damn, oh.
We can wait.
No. Come on, Pump. I hope nothing this horrible happened. One of my good friends from Atlanta. Better answer. That's important. Pump Jones. Pump. That's called a dial. Sorry, I apologize. He's good enough friends. If something happened in Atlanta, he'd probably be calling me. Back on track. So we're talking about Sandy Lee, weren't we?
Yep.
And at the end of that film, she says, because of me, nobody was able to go to the call. And of course, I asked the last class, and the last class helped me out. Has anybody ever been in a situation where you've had a member injured in the company that you were assigned to? What was it like? Are you guys twins?
No.
You sure?
Yes.
You're looking at each other. Why do you do that?
I thought he was going to tell a story about himself.
Oh,
Well, that's what I was saying. It was me.
So go ahead if you don't mind. Do you mind me asking what happened?
Yeah. So.
I don't mind, but I'm not going to tell you.
So the second time was I was
Oh boy.
I was trying to find the outside door. There was no doorknob on the outside, so I jumped on the inside of the house and followed the wall and found the hinges and kicked it out. But when I kicked it out, my recovery step, I stepped forward. There was a hole in the floor, and I caught myself, but I tore my bicep when I.
Abandoned, vacant, derelict house.
How's there we doing?
Yeah, wow. Sorry, I'm glad you're 100% now. You look like that. You worked with him at the time?
I was on the fire with him, yeah.
So he gets transported to the hospital and we don't know his exact condition?
Well, I did transport him.
You were the ambulance?
Yeah, we were the suppression ambulance.
There was another guy that got hurt worse than
Yeah, there
More
were
severe.
2 injuries. at that
That was a
fire.
bad day at work.
Mhm. I
And
transported
what
him.
was it like for everyone else in terms of productivity? What were they focused on when we get to the point?
Luckily, when he noticed he was hurt, the fire was
Pretty well out.
extinguished.
Good, beautiful.
So our work was done for the most part. But, yeah, then
He said that was a butt face style. Sorry, I apologize.
you're good.
Come on, Pump. You're killing me, dude. He said all things are good. So those companies were pretty much not functional while we were recovering our members, getting them to the hospital, getting them to care, and really worrying over them. I can't imagine the stress that they went through with Sandy Lee. And she talks about the people on the ladder truck with her and what they go through. And then by the end of the night, they're all saying that they're going to quit, the 3 members that were with her. One's a captain, a driver, and a firefighter. They visit her in the hospital a couple days later when she's conscious, I guess probably a couple weeks later. And she says, knock it off. They finish their careers and so forth. But it's a horrible situation to be in, isn't it? So clearly, we've got to be in a position to take care of ourselves so that we can do the second part, the mission, which is important. We are a world-class organization, and I mean that. Simply put, you guys are amazing. And I say that with no reservation, having known what you went through, having known how good you were to this community, knowing how well you answered the alarm when you needed to, and there was some stress in the background. Open lines of communications is another thing that clearly came out of the report by the consultants, isn't it? And I hope you've seen a little bit of uplift or uptick with communications. I've tried to visit the stations. I think I've hit them all. Try to get out on the weekends. I didn't this Sunday because I had so much to do. But of course, this presentation is a chance for you to have a chat, learn a little bit more about me, ask questions. Got about 2 hours that we're going to spend together today. We're asking everybody to watch it, hence that's why the videotape is rolling. The members that miss it will get at least that chance. And then I'm going to ask you about the staff notes. Comes out every week. Typically, we try to have a meeting. Probably won't have one this week. Didn't have one last week, maybe. I think we did have one last week, but I wasn't there. And then they all live in the same place now. Is it FireNet? Did I say that right? Is it a file on FireNet and you don't know? Why don't you know? Nobody told me. I'm hoping. No, but I hope everybody gets the message. And why is it important for the minutes to be in one place? Easy to access, everybody can get to them. And when you're gone for a couple of weeks or something like that, and you miss 2 or 3 of those notes, what can you do?
Log in.
Yeah, log in, take a look, yada, yada, 3 bags full. The other thing too, I'd ask you to hold us accountable. If we said we're gonna do something 3-4 months ago, go back, look at those notes, hey, Rubin, what happened? Didn't occur the way that it should. So again, I think it's a really good way to communicate. Today, we're gonna be cutting the ribbon or popping the cork, whichever, on our program called Putting Out Fires. Did I say the title right? I think I did. Putting Out Fires. Sir. That's going to be a video program. Sorry, you got to put up with me because I'm going to be the panel moderator, the host. 2 guests are going to come on. The guests are going to talk about something that we're directly involved in, something that's happening in the organization, something exciting, something you need to know about. As that finishes up, then we're going to have a couple of questions from members that want to know, hey, Rube, how about this or how about that? And we'll respond to those questions. So if you're tracking with me, that's going to come out in a video format starting in July. And we're also going to send out popcorn. Just the first time. What's the idea with the popcorn? What do you got to have with a movie? Popcorn. It'll be about 30 to 45 minutes long. It'll hopefully, help me out. You told him we're having popcorn, he didn't believe you. No, yes, no. Just magic, quiet discussion between 2 colleagues. I'm not allowed to know whatever was funny. I miss all the good jokes. But bottom line is, another mechanism to communicate, fair? So what they tell me in little fire chief school, if there is such a thing, some people really enjoy reading a written message, yes or no? Some people communicate electronically. I get it on my cell phone, you said a few minutes ago, right?
No, I said I have a flip phone. I don't get anything.
You don't get
except
anything?
phone calls.
Oh, not a bad plan, actually.
I do the written a lot better.
Me too, man, you're in the same boat. My middle child gets married, and her older brother's there, and her younger sister's there. And the reception room is maybe 3 or 4 times this size. And how are they communicating? And they're texting the whole time. And I'm positive it was about me. I'm sure it was only about me. They were talking about how old and fat I've gotten. But with that said, that's another mechanism to communicate. Written, verbal, sometimes face-to-face, yes, sometimes electronic. And of course, some people like to watch videos. So what we're trying to do is to get all of those mechanisms working, use them all, so that we get our message out, so that you know where your fire department stands, so that you have input in what's going on and can help us guide the organization in a direction that makes sense. Who probably knows the most about how to get the work done? The workers? What do you think? Yeah, and especially each department is a little different, a little specialized, so you probably know the most about how we operate compared to any of the other higher ranking folks. We're going to rebuild trust and respect. And again, the consultant's report said that took a little bit of a hit. What do you think? Yep. But I want to let you know, for what it's worth, you have my trust, you have my respect. Been in the fire department for a little while. And with that said, I assure you that this is a job where you have to have trust and respect for one another, isn't it? So I'm giving it to you. It is yours, it is free, it's my gift to you. What you do with it is up to you. What do I mean by that? It's not that hard. If you can maintain it, hallelujah. What happens if you decide to lose it?
There's consequences.
You'll lose it, there's consequences, but it's going to be more difficult to get back. Is that fair? So if you say, Rube, you're not getting off that easy, you have to earn your trust, you have to earn your respect. I don't mind doing that at all, but I'm telling you on the front end, you have mine. Please don't lose it. As a human being, as a firefighter, I trust you, I respect you. And again, I hope that we can get to a position where there's trust and respect across the entire organization. And I get it, that's not going to happen overnight. The next thing is, I'm going to be here about 6 or 7 months. Somewhere about September, October, we'll start advertising for a chief. The following month, we'll begin selecting the chief. I'm hoping that we can have direct member input, Local 64. Maybe we'll have a captain and a firefighter and a paramedic involved in the selection process in some form. Haven't figured that quite out yet, but we'll get a great new chief, and he or she will hopefully pick up where I leave off. If all goes exactly right, by December, by Christmas time, as in the 1st of December, that person will be in place or pretty close to it. For that month, they'll get a chance to work with me. Maybe I'll take the lead at first, they'll follow me around, whatever, and then of course it's going to change for the last couple of weeks or days or whatever it might be. They'll be the boss and I'll be there high-fiving. And then in January, if all things go right, I'll be in South Florida and I want you to come visit. Promise me you will. It's going to get cold here. I'm just letting you know that in the front end. Just letting you know that. So come and visit, but that's sort of the plan. And again, we're hoping for a great new chief. We've got to have a great relationship with the local, which probably everybody in here is. Doesn't matter whether you are or not. You're represented by them either way. And I like to call that partners in progress. Why is it important for labor and management to get along well?
Get stuff done in there.
That brings us to the thrive part of your mission statement.
Something better.
I love it. Knocked it out of the park. Everybody's going to be right. Some were righter than others. They were exactly right. And I would say, and again, I've studied this. Usually that gets a chuckle at least. And in my studies, about 90 to 95% of what we do is exactly what we both would agree upon. What do you think? About 90 to 95% of what the local wants, administration wants. What do you think? What would that be?
Mission statement number 1.
Say, okay,
That
number
is
one,
the
you
right
should
job.
take care of yourself.
Uh,
Number 2, take care of the customer. What else? Do you want good apparatus? Good equipment, good training? Do you want good training? Do you want reasonable firehouses? I know, we've got a ways to go, but if you haven't visited 16, oh my goodness, that's gonna be beautiful. If you haven't visited 12, oh my goodness, that's beautiful. This place is not bad. There's a couple not bad, and there's a few that aren't so good. We're gonna have a chance to take my boss and my boss's boss to lunch at 4. Coming up soon. 4, not so good. Just saying. So they'll be exposed to that. They'll get a chance to see what's going on there. And again, trying to bridge that gap to where we get good fire stations for you. But I think if you had a piece of paper, folded it in half, wrote on one side what the union wants, wrote on the other side what management wants, about 90 to 95% is going to be the same. Everybody's agreeing. What a great group. Thank you for agreeing. But that leaves, we want to have open, honest, frank communications. We want to listen actively to one another. We want to remember it's never about us, but it's always about the customer and your safety. And with that said, there's about a 5 to 10% ravine there, isn't it? That we have to figure out how we're going to bridge. What do you say? What would that difference be?
Just making sure that we can talk.
Well, what's the difference though? Yes, everybody is right, yes, but what actually is it?
Hey,
Try to
Finances.
quantify. So pay is gonna be one, promotion's probably another, maybe discipline, but I hope we can close that gap even quicker. But when it comes to pay, at some magic point, we'll probably start negotiations. We'll go with ground rules first. Probably there's a number passed down on high that says you can go up to this amount, anything below that's great, but don't go above that amount, fair. And whatever it is, they tell me that I can go up to 75% of your pay and you want 150%. Kind of with me? I can do this handful of benefits and you want 3 more benefits. I'm just saying that's the nature of what we do, isn't it? So that's the 5 or 10%. Now with the 5 or 10%, we've got to agree that we can disagree in a respectful, professional manner. We agree that we can disagree without harming our mission-critical relationship, because that's what it is. And the respectful, honest, and direct communications will always be the best. In other words, get over yourself. That 5 or 10% is going to happen. Don't take it personal. Shake hands, move on. There's a better day. 90 to 95% is coming down the pike. Now, I know based on all the other members that I've seen, and I only have 2 days in this class left to go, and I will have interacted with everybody. Nobody in here has ever had a relationship where there was a couple of bumps in it. Nobody. Right?
A lot of bumps.
Oh, maybe there's been some bumps. And I would ask you, have you ever had a relationship where it's about 90 to 95% perfect, 5 to 10% where there's issues? Have you ever? I'd ask you, are you married? So, do you mind show of hands who's married? About half, a little bit more, maybe a little bit more. With married folks, has there ever been a disagreement between you and your spouse?
Yeah.
So a couple of people teased and said, we'll just get a divorce. Well, you know that's not true, but what will you do? Work through it. Maybe there's some compromise. Maybe there's a couple of nights sleeping on the couch. Whatever it takes to get through, but you know you're going to get through it and come out on the other end. Communicate. And you do it openly, honestly, respectfully. You kind of get the idea. So to me, it's about the same. It's about the same issue. You are supported, and I'm going to even you go out on a limb and say by some of those groups you are loved by the community. I've been to 4 or 5 community events. They love you. Don't ever lose that. That is so important. Also ties into what's called public trust. You are truly liked by the governing body, maybe even loved. They've been very clear, help us fix the fire department, help us make the fire department better, help the members in the fire department get back to trust and respect and all the things that are important. County City Administration, David Johnston, Mr. Johnston, has got a couple of more months here than I do, which is not a lot of time. But I'm telling you, he wants the issues resolved. He wants you to feel good about your job. He wants you to come to work and do all the things that you should be doing correctly, at the same time behaving well and doing good work. Bridget is absolutely wonderful. Is that like a moat and a castle?
It's a smaller place because I'm out.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. I'm watching the whole place melt down right under my watch. But the deputy county administrator, she's incredible, I'm gonna tell you on the front end, and she reminds me almost daily, there was no toilet paper. Right. And I could go on across the board to make sure that all of the issues that make the place run smooth fits in that middle spot. Who's on the very bottom of that pile? Administration. Yeah, we get the oversight, we do. We've got to make sure that the budget comes in under budget or at budget, we do. Sometimes we have to implement discipline, we do. But it doesn't do anything as compared, it pales into comparison of what your responsibilities are. Helping the people, responding to new calls, resolving emergencies, and thank you for doing that. The middle piece though, the people who support you, big deal or little? Yeah, pretty big deal. Oh, did we forget payroll? What happens every 2 weeks? Who shines? Payroll person, if it's on time, if it's correct, if you get overtime, isn't it good? And you know, another one's IT. Unless you own a flip phone and you don't care. I should own a flip phone. I like that. I do.
Simplifies.
I tried to get one and they wouldn't let me. Said they weren't available anymore. I was hoping for one that was gasoline powered. Just saying, it's really hard. It talks about James Stockdale. Anybody catch that name? Admiral James Stockdale. Ever so quickly, he's a Vietnam era pilot, United States Navy. At the time, he was a captain, and I think he was on the Enterprise, USS Enterprise. And he goes to war in North Vietnam and just has a record that is second to none. More medals, more ribbons. The guy is just amazing in every level. Well, one day, 30,000 feet, flying a mere 500 plus miles an hour, whatever it was, he gets shot down. Any veterans in here? Because I thought I saw at least one. Are you a veteran? What's the anchor?
For religious reasons.
Oh, how cool is that? Thank you for that. Anybody else? Any veterans? Any other veterans? Any veterans? No? Thank you for your service if you are. But bottom line is, when Stockdale gets shot down at that altitude, he survives because of his parachute. But the parachute is seen for quite a ways from quite a distance. And by the time they make it to Stockdale, it's a group of North Vietnamese that takes him to the Hanoi Hilton. What is that? The worst POW camp that we probably have ever experienced in the history of our country. Every day, the prisoners of war that are in that camp are tortured. The term waterboarding comes out of there. What's waterboarding? They put some kind of cloth over the person's face. They start pouring a pitcher of water on their face. And you know, the idea is to start getting them feel like they're drowning, right? So once you begin to lose your breath and you're really out of control, of course your arms are pinned down, your legs are pinned down. And then they stop for just a second or two to catch you doing taking that really deep breath because you haven't been able to breathe. And what do they do at that second? Pour more water. They don't want to drown you. What they want you to do is to feel like you're drowning and tell them all the secrets of the United States. So Stockdale, being a captain, is equivalent to a colonel in any other branch of the military. And he's very clear about, first of all, he's the commanding officer now within that group. And he's very clear about nobody will break. Everybody's got to focus. We're going to get out of here, stay positive. They come up with a system of doing sort of a reverse Morse code. They communicate between huts. He makes them do physical fitness as best they can. He keeps their spirits up. And I think if you read about him, I think you'll find 7.5 years. I don't think he loses anybody in the Hanoi Hilton, which was pretty amazing. When they get out, he checks on each and every person. He checks on their families. He makes sure they're all good. He was just an all-around great guy. Well, he gets out. He gets promoted to admiral, continues until he retires. And upon retirement, life is good, kind of in the back window, the war, and he's out having dinner with his wife in civilian clothes. And a gentleman comes up to him and he says, "Admiral Stockdale, Admiral, you made it! You made it, sir!" Well, Stockdale doesn't recognize the guy. He had every single prisoner of war that was in there with him memorized, his face, his name. their social security number, or, sorry, their service number, whatever the heck it is. There's a military number that would help him identify the person if something crazy happened. He had all that upstairs. Well, after a few seconds of pleasantries, he looks at him and he says, "Sir, do I know you?" "Oh, Admiral, the day you were shut down off the Enterprise," and again, I might not have the exact name of the ship, "but the day you were shut down, I worked on that ship with you." "Oh, what did you do, son?" And he said, "Well, that was my day to pack the parachutes to make sure everybody was ready to go. And I can see you made it." Meaning what? Yeah, the parachute worked and saved his life. What would happen at 30,000 feet? What would happen at 50 feet without a parachute? Would have died. Would have been a splat. Perfectly safe. Well, Stockdale thinks about that. Let's see, it's not about me, maybe. Maybe it's about the parachute packer. Maybe it's about the person that fueled the plane, maintained the plane. Maybe it's about the person that made sure that his armament worked. Maybe that provided the ammunition. What am I trying to say? Everybody in that middle group was important for him to be so successful. He went ahead and wrote a book. I don't think it's available anymore. It's kind of an older book. It's been a long time. He's been passed away for about 15 years or so. But ultimately, you might want to get a copy if you like reading. I know I like to read. Sounds like you do as well. It's a really good read, and again, it speaks volumes, and I mean volumes about support people. And speaking of frontline supervisors, as in you, there always has to be at least one designated adult in every single fire company in America. Every fire company has got to have a designated adult. What do you think? Who's that designated adult?
Great.
Who's it?
The driver.
All right, the driver, but usually it's who? Is there only one captain here today, this afternoon? What is it, captain's going on strike?
I didn't get that memo.
Summertime, they pick all the days.
Then drivers. Drivers are next up, huh? Driver. You're hiding your rank, you're a paramedic. Right? You've got how many chains? Be honest.
He's got that glow, doesn't he?
How many gold chains for real? Seriously, please.
Zero.
Yeah.
The gold is glow.
He's got 9.
I keep running out of time, so I usually go through the ranks. But please hang on to your cards and make sure that your cards say yes for now. Everybody got a card. Would you like to have everybody think you're the coolest ever and just absolutely no problems? I think I know the answer is yes. If you want every single person, to absolutely love you, I'm going to ask you to get a white pair of pants, a white shirt, a white tie, a white hat, buy a white truck, and sell ice cream, because who will you be? The good humor person. Everybody falls in love with the ice cream person, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's probably not realistic, but still, can I at least get one person to love me? To make sure that you do, like all the time, I would offer you get a dog. Right, so my jokes just are not that funny today. Thank you for that. Laughing at me or with me? I'm not sure, but it's all good. So when you're in a setting where you're the boss, you're the captain, you're the driver, or you're the acting captain or the acting driver, or you're the paramedic, I hope there's no acting paramedics, or you're the EMT, or you're the firefighter, you gotta take a leadership role at times, fair? And sometimes it's hard to say, do we do some things in the firehouse that should never happen? Yeah, we do. And this place has done a few. Even since I've been here, we've done a couple. Now, suppose if you can't say no, you really are that ice cream man, you can't get the words out. Pull your card out of your pocket. These are your cards. This is my gift to you. And just simply hold up the no. Not one, but no. Not no. No one. No, you made me look. Now, Chief Brunicini tells a pretty cool story. Anybody hear that name before? Chief Al Brunicini, Phoenix Fire Department, I'm surprised. He was the kind of the modern day father of our business. Incredible friend, incredible person. I could go on forever. But he told a pretty interesting story about no. And the story goes something like this. Pumper 9 and truck 9 would have a volleyball game after lunch about 1:30 when it wasn't too terribly hot outside for PT. So there's an old captain there that is Chief Brunicini's buddy, and he's sitting in the chair reading a novel, waiting for everybody to get out on the court. The engine has, pumper has 4, the truck has 4, 4 on 4. He doesn't really want to play between us, but he'll do it anyhow to keep up morale and to keep everybody doing a little physical fitness stuff. So he's reading his novel, and as he's reading his novel, the last person out on the court before he goes out on the court is a rover. That's our term, rover, right? So they might call it a detailed person, but it's exactly the same person. Not assigned to that station that's moving through the system because they were extra at home. Extra person gets to move. They move to that day, pumper 9, truck 9. So he sees her come out of the bunk room area, and she has on a pair of fire department shorts, which we will hopefully soon get. And the shorts are just rolled up as tight as they can and just as small as they can. Kind of got that visual. Then she took a pair of scissors and had cut the shirt down the center, and then she had it tied on the side. So you kind of get in the visual, and the captain, reading his book, looks up at her, and all he says is, What happens? She goes back into that same bunk room. She rolls down her shorts. She puts on a shirt that she should have had on in the first place. And they have a great volleyball game, and the captain probably gets ice cream for everybody. Pretty cool ending, huh? What could have happened if he would have let her out sort of half-dressed? Oh my goodness. It depends on how wild your imagination is, because it could have been terrible. It could have involved the media, on and on and on. But again, by simply saying no, are there times when you have to dig in your pocket, when you're ready to do something really stupid, and say what?
No.
Well, you're not the captain, and you're not the driver, but we're still planning something stupid. Dig in your pocket and do what? I'm hoping you keep these in your pocket when I visit your station. Show me, it'll make me happy. But sometimes it is tough, wouldn't you agree? Peer pressure and everything. But when we're deciding to do something stupid, probably we would like to hear a no instead of figuring out how we're going to get away with it, whatever it is. Don't do it. You'll get caught, I promise.
Just have it tattooed on the face.
So we're asking, that wouldn't be a bad idea. We're asking an embarrassing prank. We're gonna really prank somebody, and I'm gonna show you one here in a while. No, 100%. Touchdown. Chiefs. Participate in a civic event. Yes, we can go there and move it up the chain of command if they don't know about it, but we can take blood pressures or help with a little bit, whatever it is, do it. Marginalize a new member. No, took you a second. No. I've been in a place where they ask they demand the new member stand to eat. What do you think? Pretty demoralizing, yes or no? Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Now, with that said, we call ourselves a family or not? We do, I think. With the fire service family, we try to take care of each other, and probably who should we work the hardest to orient to figure out how they fit in, where they fit in, when they fit in, and make them feel comfortable? Who should we work on that with? Anybody have kids? I know no one said they were married, so let me try it now. Anybody have children? So your new baby comes home, new member of your real family, correct? Your nuclear family. How do you treat that baby? Looky here, pal. You think you're gonna get a diaper change today? We'll talk about it tomorrow. Oh, you were thinking you wanted some milk, huh? Here's some water, now shut up. And the next day, we gotta take it up to the next level. So no milk, no water, you're gonna get warm water, just to see how it turns out. What do you think? Would you ever do that? No. You would not even consider that, would you? Don't do it with our family. Don't do it with our new members. There's some traditions that are meant to stay forever, and some traditions that probably need to die sooner rather than later. So like standing up to eat, don't do that. That's just embarrassing. Requesting a ladder drill. I learned that we do not have baseboard ladders, which I'm honestly surprised. Most places have a 40, 45, or 50 foot. Got the tormentor poles, familiar with that? The other day, I watched three firefighters being rescued with a 50-foot ladder. Glad we had the ladder, right? I'm sure they would have been injured or would have had to jump either way, it would have been ugly. So somebody says, hey, we haven't thrown the 35 in a while. What do you say? Captains, drivers, senior firefighters? Yeah, absolutely, you get the idea. Thank you for that. Do we want to be selfish or selfless? I get the chance to teach at the National Fire Academy. And I think you're probably saying, oh my God, what do you mean? They let you teach there? They do. They're silly enough to let me out and turn me loose with students. And one of the examples about selfless and selfish deals with a couple of premium, high quality, all-star, Hall of Fame athletes. And the first story comes out of Chicago with the Chicago Bulls. The date's 1994. Michael Jordan has retired. Let me say that. Scottie Pippen is the star of stars for the Chicago Bulls. This day, they're playing Game 6. Game 6 is taking place in New York, the New York Knickerbockers at the time. And with that said, they're down 1 point with 2 or 3 seconds to go, maybe 4. Phil Jackson, who's the head coach, calls a timeout. When he calls a timeout, he goes over the play. Now, as Scotty's coming to the bench, to the huddle rather, with the timeout, what's he thinking? Ball's coming to him. So Jackson says, no, in fact, I'm going to ask you to inbound the ball. And whoever the player is, and again, it's in the history books, when you inbound the ball to him, he's going to turn around, take the jump shot, it's going to go in, we're going to win by a point, and then we'll be back here in Chicago to play Game 7 in the NBA Finals. What does Scotty say? Huh? Would have been a fun story if that would have happened. He says, nah, I'm going to take the shot. Phil Jackson's the boss, and he says, no, Scotty. And he explains it again. You're going to inbound the ball. The reason why I want you to inbound the ball, if you're out on the court, how many players are going to be on you? 3 or 4, but I'll shoot around them, over them, under them. I will make the shot. Scotty, I know you will. Do it my way, inbound the ball. At that point, it's pretty clear Phil Jackson is not recanting, he's not changing the direction. Scotty walks away and he sits on the far, far end of the bench. Now Jackson has got to call a second timeout, bring up another player, give him the play. Anybody know what happens next? The ball gets inbound, the player makes the turnaround jump shot, there's a swoosh, the crowd goes wild. The visiting crowd, the people from Chicago, what are the players doing? Oh, they're doing high fives, somersaults, sprinkler system? They're doing it all. Why wouldn't they, right? It's going back to Chicago, and for the record, they would win in Chicago and they'll win the world champion. That happens. As the place goes into pandemonium, the Chicago side, what does Scotty do? Gets up and goes into the locker room. Selfless, selfish. Yeah. Sort of the comparator that they throw out at the Fire Academy is Roy Doc Holliday. Philadelphia Phillies. Do you know how much it hurts me to say the word Phillies? I do not like any of the Philadelphia sports teams, for the record. Do not like them. Washingtonian my whole life, and they would come in and beat us up pretty good generally. Doc Holliday pitches the 20th. No, perfect game. No hits, no runs, complete shutout. 20th in history. Big deal or little? There was a lot of shutouts before, but there'd be 3 or 4 or 5 hits, or maybe there'd be an error. Person got on base, they never got home. Maybe they'd be struck by a pitch. Whatever it could have been. But at the time, there was only 20. 20 in the history of baseball. It goes back to the early 1800s. Big deal or little deal? And if you're tracking, it happens in 2010 on May 29th. So the Philadelphia Inquirer is there, and the camera's flashing his face. They've got the reporters everywhere. And what are they asking him? What's it like to be the 20th ever, yada, yada, yada? What does he say? Looky here, it was only because of my team. See, I got Southern on you for just a second. So without a doubt, it's because of the incredible catches they made in the field. Did you see the shortstop, the range? Unbelievable. And my catcher, I'll never be able to repay him. My catcher was the one that called the perfect game. Go talk to him. And you're thinking it's over. Now, the next thing he does in 2010 is to buy every person on the team, every coach on the team, every support person on the team an $800 watch. So if you bought it today, what would it be worth? 10, 12, 15, 20,000? All right, maybe I'm exaggerating some, but you get the idea. It was a pretty expensive watch. Each of the watches are engraved. What do they say? Close, very close. Everybody's right, that's almost perfect.
We did it.
We did it. We did it. We did it. Not Doc did it, not Holiday did it. We did it, and the date on the watch. Selfless, selfish. And of course, you don't have to answer, but which one do you want to be? And I hope you know which one. I'm asking you to flawlessly execute the basics of your assigned job. What do you think? Flawlessly execute the basics of your assigned job. Yes, cool. Anybody saying, hey, wait a minute. Flawlessly and basics. If you're a paramedic, right? If you're a paramedic, you need to be able to get an airway, start an IV, needle decompression. I could go on. And all those skills you really have in your repertoire to be able to calculate drug initiation. And I think there's very little tolerance, because if you make a mistake, delivering paramedic care can most likely happen. Could kill somebody, no question about it. And I would dare say, being able to do the basics as a firefighter, the same expectation. Put on the gear correctly, know how to wear an air pack, advance a supply line, lay a supply line rather, advance an attack line, know how fire spreads, know how to check for fire extension, know how to use the thermal imager. The basics, is that a fairly standard, safe way of describing knowing the basics? In the summer, however, he would be passed. He died of cancer September 3rd, 1970. Why is this important? How does it tie into what we're talking about? Flawless. He says, and it's on the Redskins locker room wall today, we will pursue perfection. And in the pursuit of perfection, we should land somewhere pretty close to excellence. What do you think? And what does every football coach, every baseball coach, every basketball coach, every hockey coach, every soccer coach say? Do the basics, yes or no?
Yes.
So thank you for agreeing. Again, I think you have to be able to do that. Exhibit and exercise self-control. That's probably only the third time that we said self-discipline, self-control, isn't it? Yeah, there's a theme there. There's a theme. Respect for all, open line of communications, and please be honest. If you're honest, you don't have to remember lies, which is kind of a big deal. And if you're honest, you don't ever have to worry about something called Lewis list or Brady list. Took me a second. Any police officers in here, any fire inspectors, fire investigators, have you ever heard of the term Lewis list and Brady list? And I think in Kansas it's the Brady list. If you lie in a public setting, not like as a public official in a public setting like you, if you lie in public, if you lie on a report, you could be very well Brady listed. If you're Brady listed, what that means is the very first thing, if you're ever involved in any kind of legal action involving your employer, you have to identify the fact that, yes, you're on the Brady list. They're going to know that already. And what that means is you have bona fide, is without a doubt you've lied in a public setting. Therefore, when you sit on a witness stand, which you probably will never get to do again in your life, what's the first thing they're going to ask you? Are you Brady listed? Yes. Then everybody asks you to explain for the jury, what does that mean? Well, I lied on a document. I lied on a run report. I lied in an investigation. I lied in testimony, but nonetheless you lied. Oh, so you lied, huh? Yeah. Are you lying now? Oh, no, I'd never lie. Well, you say you'd never lie? Oh my God, you just said you lied. Which is it? Can you possibly tell the truth? So your ability to do that part of the job is gone forever. Are you with me? Most people in any kind of a system that has to do anything with the legal world, fire prevention inspector, fire investigator, police officer, when you're Brady listed or Lewis listed, you pretty much lose your job, right? So again, be honest, don't lie, especially at work, but don't lie. Always be prepared to be ready to answer calls. What does it take to be ready? I watch it happen every morning as I'm backing in. Members are putting their turnout gear on the apparatus, taking off the other person's gear, checking the water tank, the tires, the fuel, the running lights, the hose lines, the medical bags. Are you kind of with me? So there's a ritual that we go through, but you always got to be ready. Agree or disagree? Train, and train some more. And I'm asking you to train just like your life depends upon it. Because it does. It simply does. Deliver the best response work. Again, another theme. Turnout times are important. Do you agree? From the time the bell rings until the wheels are rolling is turnout time. About 90 seconds in the daytime, about 2 minutes at night. What do you think? Reasonable? I think so. Now, there's some reason why you can't get out quick enough. Perhaps it's the daytime, you got the aerial extended out, the jacks are down, the jack plates are underneath the jacks, the wheel chocks are in the wheels, we're in power takeoff, yada, 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 yada. What do?
No.
Notify dispatch that you're going to be running a little late, will be delayed, make sure the battalion knows, clean up your stuff and go. Big deal or little? And thank you for taking care of the ladder truck. Thank you for doing all the job you're supposed to do, but you won't get dinged for being late on that call. If you're consistently late and there's no explanation, you might get a talking to, but I hope that doesn't happen. And absolutely don't plan on making time up on the road. Why? I think we have 2 ambulances that were cracked up. They told me a little earlier today that one ambulance just went out for repair in North Carolina, so it's going to be quite a while before it comes back home. And another one is in the process of being repaired. So you get the point. We can't be equipped too bad. NIOSH, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. NIOSH is the research arm for fire service for the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, all federal government agencies. If a firefighter dies traumatically in the line of duty, they come out and investigate. If it's a medical death in the line of duty, they've stopped investigating. It's a heart attack is a heart attack is a heart attack kind of thing. So when a member dies traumatically and the chief invites them out, that also has to happen. They come out, they do a full investigation, produce a great report. The report, if you get a chance to put your hands on it, I'd ask you to read 2 things. One part of the report will indicate the executive summary, probably you're gonna get the full understanding of what went on there, when, where, how, and why. Then there's gonna be another section that's recommendations. What the recommendations truly represent are the mistakes that were made. You with me? So if there's 6 or 8, 10, 12 recommendations, it's because they probably made that many mistakes. Well, after a while, when we have the repetitive mistakes, when we keep making the same mistakes over and over again as a fire service, they put out an alert bulletin. And they say, hey, wake up, here are the things that are killing us. We know that on average, 100 firefighters will die in the line of duty each year. Last year, 146 were acknowledged on May 6th at the National Fire Academy at the National Fallen Firefighter Memorial Foundation weekend. So with that said, here are the big 5. Failure to apply ICS or completely apply it. I think we do a good job, quite frankly, but I think we have some more room, we have some definite room that we can improve. Take it for what it's worth, but that's what I see. Failure to size up our situational awareness. Do we have a safety officer in the room? Anybody that's a safety officer? We do the 360, we try to understand what's going on, we start size up from the time the alarm comes in. Perhaps there's a pre-plan, I could go through that, but ultimately, sometimes we do not do a full and complete job of understanding what we're getting into. Next, failure to account for members. We've got some work to do there too. If you're wondering what I'm thinking about, when you have nothing else to do, you can Google Seattle passport system. Seattle Fire Department had a series of unpleasant events, 3 warehouse fires, 3 firefighters died. They got a huge fine for what was called egregious violation of OSHA rules. OSHA, by the way, is the enforcement agency. NIOSH is the research agency. And the OSHA fine was astronomical, like $250,000. So they negotiated it down, and OSHA's not really looking for money, they're looking for what? Safety and compliance is really the answer. Safety and compliance is exactly both right. And they agreed to a much more reasonable $10,000 or $15,000 settlement. And bottom line, the way they get that settlement down is by agreeing to put together that Seattle passport system that I'm talking about. I think you're gonna like it. It's easy, it's simple, it's easy to apply, easy to understand. Now you'll see, we will put together a policy, we'll train on that policy, we'll have all the pieces to the system, and then we'll implement it. Isn't that a crazy idea? Why shouldn't we implement it, then write the policy, then do the training? What is that called? Aim, ready, fire?
Fast.
Backwards, I'll buy that too. So again, we've got some time and we're gonna have to do it. Go ahead, question? No thought. Ineffective communications, I think that is on just about everyone. There's a mismatch of communications, being honest about it. With that said, how about under ideal conditions, perfect communications between 2 humans? What do you think? Does that exist? Once again, I'd ask you, do you have a spouse? Ideal conditions, perfect communications. You're saying, yeah, we're on the same page. Then I'm gonna ask you, do you have any teenage kids? Yeah, you kind of get the idea. Now, when we communicate, it's usually over a portable or mobile. There's a face piece involved, background noise, bells sounding, glass smashing. It's never ideal conditions. Would you agree? So, communications. Lack of policies. We've got some policies we've got to fill in. And even worse than that, what they found is oftentimes people have the policies, but they simply fail to use them. So again, those are the big 5. Those are the things we want to stay away from. Some other operational issues. Let's be an aggressive interior fire department. This is where the other groups cheered for me. And then I said, but let's be smart about it. And then the cheers all stopped and was like, huh? What do I mean by that?
Risk assessment.
We need to do a risk management model at every event, don't we? Well, I cannot tell you the numbers of times where we failed to do a risk assessment and firefighters died in the meantime, died in the course of the action. Let me hit a chord with you. I don't remember the year, but Kansas City, Missouri, would you happen to know where that is?
Yep.
They have a 30,000 pound ammonium nitrate and fuel oil, which is a Class A explosive, 30,000 pounds of aluminum chips. I don't know where Interstate 71 is, but that's where it's going to happen. They were doing some construction work. When the call comes in, they're told 7 different times, high explosives, use caution, high explosives, use caution. They go there, they put a small pickup truck out that's on fire. They call for a second pumper, pumper 30, pumper 41 goes to the call. Because 2 vehicles are moving, a battalion chief goes, District Chief 107, Marion Gurman, or battalion chief, whatever the correct term is. And I thought they were all empty. I was gonna say, man, you're not gonna sleep tonight. Yes. So when Gurman is about 3/4 of a mile away, he describes the explosion as so powerful it takes out his windshield. Calls for a full first and second alarm, 4 or 5 ambulances, and he has them all staged. And in the staging process, they're calling pumper 30, pumper 31, pumper 30, pumper 41. This goes on for a while. And the members are like crazy ready to go in and rescue them. 17 minutes into staging is the second explosion. Much more devastating than the first. They all would have died, in other words. So being smart about it, probably knowing Class A explosives were involved. Maybe pumper 30, pumper 41 should have never gone in. But he knew up front and personal that the rest of the companies had to stay back. You have 3 options with Class A explosives on fire. Any guesses? There's 3 tactical options. That's all there is. What is it?
Stay
Say
back.
it.
Stay back.
Distance. Distance. Is that the only one we got covered? Time, distance, and shielding. If you cover it, you're dead. I mean, honestly, the worst thing. Okay, shielding. Because the reason why an explosive works in the first place is because of pressure. The more closed it in it is, the more explosive power it has. Time, distance, and shielding. There's nothing else to choose. So again, were they aggressive?
Yeah.
Incredibly so. The other thing that comes out of that case study, and because we're right next door, we probably all ought to know it, is they describe the precious human remains as biomatter. I heard it referred to at the Mara building of the humans, of the civilians, as pink mist. What's biomatter?
Pieces.
Yeah, they were blown to pieces. Just horrible situation. So please, let's be smart. Now, with that smart, we've got to do a risk management model. You've already said it. Thank you for that. We've got to evaluate, is the risk equal to the benefit, right? And if it's out of balance, we probably ought to think twice. If it's a very little risk and a great benefit, go for it. But if it's almost no benefit and a tremendous risk, you might want to stop and think about it. It's impossible to help folks when you're injured. Foundation of safety, the entire foundation of incident safety relies with risk management. Risk management is the continuous evaluation of human risk, firefighter lives, as compared to the benefits to be gained, which is our actions. You'll find this information in NFPA Standard 1500. National Fire Protection Standard 1500 is the occupational safety standards for firefighters. NFPA 1561 is the incident command standard, incident management standard. So that's where this stuff comes from. Risk management or risk benefit analysis looks a lot like this. We should start off willing to risk a lot to save a lot. I know you like that, don't you? I'm going to make you upset here in a minute. Risk a lot to save a lot. Typically, it looks like we're working on saving what?
Lives.
If that's true, then we want to risk a little to save a little. And that usually looks like property. And when there's no risk, we'll take no benefit. Risk a lot to save a lot, lives. Risk a little to save a little, property. No risk when there's no benefit, and we're always going to choose life over property, fair? Mm-hmm. So you just happen to find yourself at the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre is on fire. What the hell are you doing there? I don't know. And why would you worry about a fire in France? But there's billions of dollars in there. Forget about the billions of dollars if you need to save a life. Are you tracking with me? We're an extreme example. Save the lives first, property second. You got that. So always choosing life over property, and we have to do it in a highly calculated manner. Risk a lot to save a lot. Risk a little to save a little. No risk when there's no benefit. Always choosing life over property in a highly calculated way. Calculated refers to our policies, our procedures, our protocols, and our training doctrine. How many items that you can think of and that group of collection of books and written documents and training manuals would represent what we should do at a structural fire, what we have to know. Well, we have to know personal protective equipment,
Yep.
SCBA,
Yep.
supply line, attack line, pump the vehicle, operate aerial ladders, ground ladders, thermal imaging, forcible entry, ventilation, flow path, fire extension, right-hand search, shall I go on? We could fill that board up, couldn't we?
Yeah.
So that's where the risk management gets a little difficult. And what it's telling you is all of those things that are important to us, we have to do them all flawlessly because we agreed they were basics, right? And we have to do them consistently at the same rate. So with that said, risk a lot to save a lot. Risk a little to save a little. No risk when there's no benefit. Always choosing life over property. We do it in a highly calculated way. And if that's not enough for you, highly controlled. Controlled speaks to the fact that we'll implement an incident command system. That incident command system will take care of command, control, and communications. So the whole package looks like this. Risk a lot to save a lot, risk a little to save a little. No risk when there's no benefit. We do it in a highly calculated and controlled way, always choosing life over property. What say you? What do you think?
Yep.
All right, no questions. That's going to be the formation of what we do. Now, some buildings are simply shot in the head. Paramedics. I haven't talked to any paramedics in the back row. Are there any paramedics back there? Oh. He was in the last class. You weren't.
I was.
Were you? All three of you? Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Pretty sure. You look familiar. Are you a paramedic? Oh.
Nope, no, sir.
Captain, are you a paramedic?
No, sir.
Back to pick them on the same paramedics. Oh. Have you ever been on a call where a person was shot? You ever been on a call where a person was shot in the head?
I have not.
Oh. New paramedic, next up. Shot in the head? Yeah. Through and through?
Yep.
Yeah. Gray matter showing? What's the gray matter?
Brain.
Yeah. So if there's brain tissue outside the body, you can make a pretty quick assumption. Injuries incompatible with life. Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. But first of all, you're a really good paramedic. Yes. Yes, I love it. And we're going to call medical control just to confirm that we're going to, and the medical control doc says, go ahead, advanced life support procedures, implement your protocols, CPR and transport. What do we do?
What did you do?
Want to do that? Rock stars. So when you get to the hospital and you're all huffy, doc, what? And he says, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, there was transplantation that could be done. Maybe it was organ donor. Thank you for the help. It's a long day when you teach the same class 3 times over. Probably isn't humane, but it is what it is. And then the other thing you might say is, or she, you know what? When's the last time you worked a code? Been a while, doc. Okay, so it's good training. What I learned, mine wasn't a through and through. Mine happened to be a person who got hit by a car doing about 60 miles an hour. I'm pretty sure every bone in this poor man's body was broke. He was turning blue. No matter what we did, how hard we worked, couldn't get a rhythm, he was dead. So the doc said, advanced life support procedures, happened to have 2 paramedics there, CPR and transport. And then when we got to the hospital, he gives the same routine I just gave you. But then I made another mistake. Then I asked not the online medical director, but our medical director. So he goes and talks to the online. Now I got 2 docs mad with me. Docs usually have other docs' backs. I'm just saying. Thank you for answering it correct the first time though. Transport. Well, what other alternative do you have? Well, when you get to the hospital, that same patient, what do you know? I know you're not supposed to give a prognosis, a diagnosis, but what do you know?
They're dead.
They're dead. DRT, dirt nap, goodbye, good riddance, 6 feet under, whatever terminology we use in this area, they're still gonna be dead.
It's gone.
Dead, yes. This is Virginia Commonwealth University. That's a four-story dormitory building that's being built. It is not protected. There's no drywall, there's no fire protection systems. It's a vertical lumberyard. The fire department pulls up pretty close to this particular picture. That we could move the picture down. There's a person pointing, like they really have to point because the fire department can figure it out. I can't explain why, but the fire department will engage 3 pumpers. They lay a supply line, they begin advancing an attack line, advancing an attack line. So as they start moving towards the building, they realize this damn thing is gonna fall down soon. It's gonna collapse, it's gonna kill us. So now it's everybody out of the pool. They get out of the pool just in time as the building collapses, but the 3 mighty BRTs, the steel soldiers, BRTs, we know what a BRT is, big red trucks, they get left behind. What do they look like when this event is over? No, that would be minor damage compared to these. And the same full version clip, if you can get your hands on it, Virginia Commonwealth University, you can watch the hose bits burst into flames. That's how much radiant heat is there. I mean, they leave on a flatbed. Did the ladder truck leave on a flatbed? Oh, that's a real bad sign. And it can't move on its own power. So who knows? But nonetheless, that building shot in the head. Defensive from the start. But wait a minute, Teach. There could be people in there. There's probably 20, 30, 40 work people in this building, yes? Middle of the day, beautiful weather, just like today. And why aren't we going in to save them? They probably left long after they lit the fire. And I'm just teasing about the lighting of the fire. I don't know how it happened. Probably a plumber's torch. They seem to keep us in business, let's be honest about that. But let's just say, for talk's sake, they didn't get out. They're very, very, very senior members of a group that's trapped by fire. What happens to senior fire victims? Senior fire victims. They pass out, they die. They're dead. If there's people in that building, what can you say? Do you think they're salvageable? No. Risk a lot to save a lot. Risk a little to save a little. No risk when there's no benefit. Dead is no benefit. I hate to say it. What did they do with this building? This building, it was gone before you know it. They rebuilt it, life goes on. Probably fully insured, probably insured by the builder. You get the idea. Now, I made you happy, now I'm gonna make you mad. Abandoned, vacant, and derelict buildings, condemned buildings, they fall into a different category all unto themselves. And I'm gonna ask you, your chief to your ears, I'm gonna ask you, please don't react until we talk a little bit about it, to start off defensively. I was ran out of the room a couple of times. I had to hide behind the door. I was in the closet for 2 hours just a little while ago. I'm over-exaggerating and teasing. But remember what I'm asking you to do. Start off defensively. When it meets the criteria of abandoned, vacant, and derelict. When it is a condemned building, when the building's fallen down, take them out. Now, if a building is vacant, does it meet that criteria? No. I can tell you with a great degree of certainty that I am at work today. My apartment is vacant. If there's anybody in that apartment, they have broken in. Are you tracking with me? So is it abandoned, vacant, and derelict? No. No, yes, and no. It's vacant, but it's not abandoned, and I promise it's not derelict. There's plenty of furniture in there. It's relatively well maintained, and there's tons of other people for you rescuing that same exact building. And thank goodness it has a sprinkler system. Now, what happens when you go to that abandoned, vacant derelict building. And I'm asking you, I'm begging you to take an extra 30 seconds or a minute, do a 360, evaluate what the building looks like before you commit. Have I just ruined your life? Have I just just took all the fun out of it? Have I sucked all the air out of the room? I'm just asking you to slow down for a minute. You do that evaluation. The safety officer says, woo-hoo, I can't find anything wrong with this building. It looks fine. Incident commander takes a peek and says, probably really stable building, let's have at it. We'll go for it. However, if it's truly, and somebody has got to say, wait a minute, there's people trapped in there. They're the homeless, they're the indigent. I know for sure that there are no homeless in Atlanta or Washington, D.C., right? Or maybe there's tens of thousands of homeless in both cities. And especially in Washington, when it gets cold, people do seek shelter, I agree. However, they're homeless, they're not stupid. When the fire starts, generally speaking, what do? They don't burn themselves out either. It's an accidental fire, almost always. They get out of the building. So far, and I've done a lot of research on this, I'm working on a pretty interesting project. I cannot find one time where we went to an abandoned, vacant, derelict building falling down, where we found any victims yet. But I can sit here and name at least 10 firefighters that died. Vinnie Dunn, 42 years in New York City, probably the best incident commander on the planet today. And he will clearly tell you that he's been to 100 fires like that, 0 victims found, and that he's buried a handful of people. Let's go to Worcester, Massachusetts. Anybody familiar with that case study? What happens? 6 firefighters die. How many victims? 0. John Sullivan puts his arms across the door. He's number 2 chief, stands in the way, says not another person's going in there. The flame spread rating in the coal storage warehouse in their community, the flame spread rating, how fast the flames move, was somewhere between 25 to 35 feet per second in the cork that insulated that building. Who in here can run 24? When he comes out, he's dead. He comes out in a Stokes basket. About 1,000 square feet, single floor building, place called Ivy City in Atlanta. And it's fallen down, it's vacant, abandoned. We shouldn't have been in that building. The people who were there prior to the fire, as soon as the fire started, they did what normal people do. They get out. What do you think? I'm asking you to take defensive mode, look at the building before we launch. Take a minute. I stand before you, so tell me, what do you think?
It's reasonable.
Okay. Some people felt like it really wasn't and wanted to engage. And I would just ask you, anybody here ever been on a hazmat call? So are you in the hazmat team, or are you pretty well connected to hazmat? Used to be. So we go to the rail car that has chlorine markings and there's a huge green cloud. There's probably no rail cars in this community, and they probably don't move chlorine on the rails. Or maybe there's a lot of it and they move quite a bit. 30,000 gallons of product is there for you. And the engineer heard that there was a brake fire. He meanders back there, and you can see his body, and there's nothing but a green cloud. The immediate assumption you can make is, what about the engineer? You can't breathe chlorine, can you? No. Turns into hydrochloric acid. Your lungs are gone in literally 1 or 2 breaths. Go ahead.
I said you can't have lungs.
Yeah, you take a breath, and after that, you're dead. Now, when you see that, you put on your turnout coat and your air pack, and you rush in like a maniac. Is that right?
No.
If you say yes, I need to make sure that all your affairs are in order, including who we should notify. It's in that sense. I mean, be honest. So, and if I'm wrong, speak up. First thing we typically do is set up a perimeter, get everybody outside the perimeter, inside the perimeter out, stop everybody outside from going in. Then we begin doing research. then, okay, we're gonna make a level A entry. What's a level A entry?
Full.
Chemical encapsulated clothing. I think they call those body bags with a window. True
I've
story.
heard.
Yeah, and you're sensory deprived on top of that. You can't see, feel, smell, taste, touch. You're sensory deprived. Then we have to have two, you can't go in by one. Then we have to start discussing and carrying in the C kit. Have you ever seen a C chlorine kit?
Yeah.
Little or small, or big or small?
Never.
It's pretty big. So maybe we need 3 or 4 people to go in. If we have 3 or 4 people in, we probably need 3 or 4 backup, right? Then we've got to do a decon corridor. So we've denied access, evacuated the area, stopped people from going in, did the research, came up with our plan, set up decon, sent some people in, had some people back. Oh, did I say we have to do a medical profile before you can get into that body bag? What's my point? When are we gonna get the, when are we gonna get to the engineer?
Right to that one.
30, 45 minutes, an hour, all those I think are great guesses. 30 minutes, I would say you're really hustling, and I'm proud of you. An hour is not unreasonable. So I'm asking you, from your chief to you, from your chief to your wives, your children, your spouses, your parents, everybody, from me to them, I'm asking you to take a minute, do a 360, evaluate it. What happens when the building's roof is gone or partially gone? What happens when the windows are gone? What happens when there are holes in the wall or doors are missing? What happens? Nothing. And how's it spread? It's crazy. Exactly right. Let's see here. I told you that I'm DC centric, I am. Oh, forgot about this one. Ever so quickly in Baltimore, look up 205 South Stryker Street. We respond there, a vacant, abandoned, derelict row houses. We respond there 3 times. The report just came out on this last one. The first time we go there, we beat the odds. We go and put out the fire. Yay! We're gonna have beer and eggs in the morning. Second time we go there, good fire, really good working fire. We go there, firefighter goes Mayday. Mayday is because he gets stuck on the staircase, he goes through the treads. They pull him up, brush him off, goes and gets checked out. Tomorrow we're gonna have beer and eggs at the local pub when we get off duty. Third time we go there, inside of a couple of months, now the building once again is fully involved. This time 3 firefighters push in. When you go on that same staircase that Mayday occurred on, it collapses, kills all 3 pretty much instantly. One firefighter gets severe burns, hasn't went back to work yet. We're almost 2 years in, or a year and a half in. The first person to die, young lady, acting lieutenant, getting ready to make lieutenant, 2 children. Was any of that necessary? No. A few minutes, take a look, slow down, recognize we've been in this building before, didn't do very well, the Mayday, should have never been in there. The battalion is pulling up, putting the car in park when the collapse occurs. Row house, vacant, 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 occupied. They call it snaggletooth. I don't know if you've heard that term or not. DC suffers from it. Baltimore is extreme. And if Baltimore is extreme, I wouldn't know how to describe Detroit. Where should they put the effort with what I just described? The occupied. Then secondly, start worrying about exposures. And if it looks like you can get into the building, but if they had just taken another minute or 2, it would have collapsed and they would have realized. What does that building look like today? I don't know, because it's at the dump. 0 value. Nobody was in it. 3 firefighters are dead. Here's DC. I am DC eccentric. I said that earlier. This is a standard, and I know people here don't think there's any homeless people in Washington. They don't think we have abandoned, vacant, derelict houses. But this is one of the ones that we don't have. It's actually one of the ones that we do. What do you see? Thank God they're defensive. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What kind of roof? What kind of windows are a shingled roof? Did somebody say? It's a non-existent roof. What kind of door, what kind of windows? None. That place hasn't been painted in about 20 years or longer. What happens to the wood? And dried out. What can you say about the combustibility? It burns very, very quick. This is the kind of place I'm talking about. No need to be in there. Do the 360. Abandoned, vacant, derelict. Thank you for being civil, because I've had some groups that really wanted to run me all around. And I'm thinking, I wouldn't like that. All right, now let's take a look at a occupied garden park. This is occupied. 4-story building, garden park, 3 and 4 floors fully involved, attic fully involved. Watch this. Boom. They collapse down to the core of the 1st and 2nd floors. I had a couple of members tell me that they would have tried to make entry to check the people on the 1st and 2nd floors. And I asked them how were they feeling. Did they need a medical day? What? This has been a few minutes into the fire upon arrival. They just have enough time to get a hose line into that building. 3 people are inside, all get pretty severely burned. I'm connected to this one, which really sucks. This is in a place called Pennsylvania, which is a state just north of DC. Or maybe they call it Pennsylvania, I'm not sure. He's a volunteer fire chief off duty. He's a brand new career private with us in the fire department. We have to hide him for almost a year before he's healed and can go back to recruit school. Where's the air homes meeting? If I showed up and there was that much fire and you couldn't figure out and you need to go into that building, I'm gonna send you all to the psychiatrist. Why? You know, this kid was probably, I hope he turns out to be a good firefighter. We went 1,000 miles out of the way for him. But he sucked as a fire chief. Plus he was a kid guy. Who would make an entry in there? Hope you would. I really mean that. We'll implement command teams. Incident commander, safety officer, we're good there. I think we've got a little freshening up on both. A little bit more implementation, a little bit more structure with incident command. I think we're gonna do a couple of days safety class for the safety officers, the acting safety officers, the battalion chiefs, the acting battalion chiefs in July or August. And yes, they'll be stuck with me again. I don't think we have an official role of accountability officer. When we begin moving into Seattle passport, it will require a human to manage. There are electronic systems that might be better. We couldn't afford it, and it really takes a sophisticated, high-deal level of training. So probably ain't gonna happen. And then start looking sooner rather than later for a second chief to go on the first alarm. If you haven't looked at the low-rise policy, we're working through that now. Hopefully it'll come out next week when I'm out of doing these classes. But probably the shift commander, I'm gonna ruin their job. They're probably gonna go on all structure fires. As the deputy IC or support officer, do they take over? No. What do?
Support.
Support and help, make sure that we don't miss anything. Is that fair? Let's see, so far, nobody here is married, nobody has or children rather. I've got to ask, anybody here ever fly on a commercial airliner? Ever? No? Yeah? One? No? Yes? No? You have or not? Maybe. Anybody else? Oh, 2, 3. How many people are up in that pointy end of the plane? A real sharp point. At least 2. Minimum of 2. Why? Redundancy in the cockpit? Why?
In case something happens.
Say, in case something happens to the other one. How often does that occur? I hate to say it, they would probably take that risk. Not with me, they wouldn't, but they'd probably take that. In fact, they're even doing planes now where there's no pilots, which I would never even consider getting on. There are. They're gonna, just like that submersible, made out of 3 different metals. The only thing good about that is by the time they realized what happened, they were long dead. I can't imagine what the pressure was on their body, but it had to be astronomical. Back on track though. The other thing, the biggest reason why there's 2, the pilot is the pilot. He's in charge. He's the captain, legally, moral, etc. The first officer, however, hey, captain, yeah. If you put those wheels down, if that landing gear was down and locked, we're gonna have a lot better day today. Oh my God, put the landing gear down. Now, one thing I've learned, and I've studied this too, the first 2 people to almost every plane crash, who are they? Pilot and first officer. What do you think? First 2 people to a plane crash. Who's got a lot vested in flying a plane? The pilot and the first officer. Kind of wondering, if a firefighter died and the incident commander, now forget about that. Just daydreaming. So again, look for that to happen. When we put people in a hazardous area, here's what we want to know: who they are, and what I call a closed system, meaning that for the most part, when you're hanging on the back of a fire truck or on a ladder truck or in an ambulance, whatever it might be, that you're going to be in that position, most likely for 24 hours, fair? Closed system. It's not like a volunteer where it changes every 10 minutes. Who they are, where they are, what are they doing, what are the conditions, what are the paths of exit, and has a RIT team been identified? So who they are is pretty simple. Where they are, we need to know as close as possible exactly where they are in the building. Why?
Yes, you have to.
In case something happens, but also, don't you have to know that as it relates to the tactics? If you're asked to check fire extension in the attic and alert you're in the basement, are you really checking fire extension in the attic? No, the answer is of course not. Who they are, what are they doing? So you'll have a pretty clear-cut assignment, obviously. What are the conditions? Heavy fire, heavy smoke, no fire, clear air. What do you think? Is that important to know? And then, of course, the next thing is we want to know the paths of exit. How do you get out of this building? And then finally, we want to make sure a RIT team is activated. This will be the responsibility of the accountability officer. But in order to have an incident action plan, the incident commander is going to need to know this, supported by the support officer. And guess who else needs to know it? You're right, the safety officer. Who the members are, where the members are, what are the members doing, what are the conditions, how do we get out, what's the exit pass? Remember, every time you go in, you got to come out, round trip ticket, right? And has the RIT team been identified? Pretty simple stuff. Command teams, again, we talked about that. Send in the second. If we send 2 on the initial, we got 2 more ready for the next call. So once we get something significantly working, the staff chief, starting with me, we'll begin moving towards headquarters, night or day, and set up what I'm going to call citywide support. So we got to make sure the stations get filled within reason. We need to, if we have to call people back to work, if we have to get mutual aid, if the word comes that we need to feed 50 people, because we're going to be there for 6 hours, kind of get the idea. So we'll be working through that as well. The incident commander must be in the correct position. Where is that at? At the command post. What do you say? The command post is the vehicles for now. I think one time recently we brought in a command vehicle from the next county. It was the reclamation fire. Oh well, I can tell it wasn't this shift. What platoon is this? Second. I think it was first shift. They brought in Johnson County. Would they have a command vehicle? Yeah. They said it worked out really well. But I go to my first fire as the official interim chief. Where's the incident commander? Up there. Okay, where's the incident commander? Up there. Okay, where's he? Going up there. Oh, okay, where? He's up there. So I see the incident commander come over the ridge pole, go down off the roof, climb down the ladder, smoke rolling. Not where we want incident commander, is it? No. Back at the command post, working off of a mobile radio. Your portable radio does about 3 watts. Your mobile radio does about 15 watts. 5 times more powerful. So again, we'll make those changes as time allows and on the right channel. 0 tolerance for discrimination. 0 tolerance for hazing. 0 tolerance for harassment, retaliation, workplace violence, or verbal or physical abuse. All of those probably should get you a ticket, fired, and I will work my hardest to see it. And if I do any of those behaviors again, you'll probably ought to get me fired. So with that said, I hope you make it to the DEI training. I've heard a few folks might be a little upset because it's going to cut into their part-time work. It's only 4 hours. I'm promising you. Dr. Kennedy, Chief Kennedy is amazing. He's a great instructor. You're going to really enjoy the class. You'll explore these a little bit more. But you can't do any of those, fair? Just can't do it. Now, let's take a look at, remember we said hazing, right? Let's take a look at a little bit of hazing going on here. This is a fire station down south. they decide to prank the rookies and this live on the Facebook. This is Facebook Live. This is the Hawthorne firefighter. Same shift, different station. So the rookies have never seen him before. Rookie, there's the guy. He has a weapon in his hand. It's a starter pistol. Nobody knows but the role players. There's another rookie here. I think there's a total of 3. I'm sorry, I ran my mouth. Did you hear the weapon go off? Did you hear the shrill scream? Oh, they're putting through it. Rookie. I think this gentleman also brave. I think that's a rookie. I think. They were so proud on Facebook, it was filmed at Section 108. The role players were Hughes, Swain, but I want you to remember Sergeant Brewer and Captain Burke. This was aired live to Facebook. Where did they go wrong? Live to Facebook.
Why did they do that?
Why did they do it in the first place?
Why would you film it?
Well, what car do you hold up? What car do you hold up? I only know heck no. So when it goes live to Facebook, the number 2 chief gets a call at home Saturday. You just had a shooting at your central fire station. Pretty reasonable, huh? Probably sounded something like, "Hi, Bubba, you done had a shooting at your," oh well, that's my attempt at the Southernese. And he calls the number 1 chief and they say, the number 1 chief says, "Respond with me, get down to the firehouse right now," and they go, "Emergency." Another point of potential danger, yes?
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine what happened if they had had a crash. Did I ask, are there any previous police, current part-time police officers? If you walked in on this and you were a cop, what would you have to do?
Take him out.
You'd have to shoot him in the head. And get rid of the threat, fair statement. Bottom line is, if the firefighters probably illegally would have had weapons, they would have shot them, the recruits. But what I can't believe is if I was one of those rookies, I always have my cell phone in my pocket. Usually I'd have dialed 911. How would that have gone over? We're having an active shooter in the firehouse. 2 or 3 firefighters have been shot. The scream was the captain of the company. She was play acting as well. So when the chief and the assistant chief gets there, they take the sarge in one room, the captain in the other. I'm gonna do the sarge first. The sarge says, "Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa." What does that mean?
My fault.
My fault, forgive me. Begging for forgiveness, trying to keep his job. He tells the whole story, from beginning to end, from planning to execution. He absolutely does stand up. The other chief has the captain, and Captain Burke is in with the fire chief, I guess, and Captain Burke denies pretty much everything that you just saw. She was just as scared, but remember that shrill scream, that was her. 1 cue with the starter pistol being fired. So it sounded realistic, it looked realistic. So they squeeze her a little bit more and she says, "Nah, it wasn't me." Well, they bring the 2 chiefs together now, bring the sarge in. "Sarge, what?" He lays it out like he did the first time, to the absolute degree, to the absolute letter. So you've been planning this for a while? "Yeah, about 2 weeks." "Was the captain involved?" "Oh my goodness, the captain was the plan." "Oh, yeah. Do you have any proof of that?" "Yeah, I probably have 15, 20, 30 instant messages, text messages." "Oh, yeah. Can you print them out?" "Of course." So again, he's trying to comply with everything. He would like to be employed the next day. They bring the captain in. Once again, she denies pretty much everything. They summarily fire her. If I understand the case study right, she goes to civil service. Civil service gets her job back, but she's no longer a captain. Captain runs a station, no longer a lieutenant. Lieutenant runs a shift. No longer a sergeant, that's a driver. She becomes a firefighter. Not long after, however, as they say, the leopard never changes its spots. She does something else pretty silly and loses her job, stays fired. The gentleman with the bandana, He had a pretty significant track record already. Again, no surprise. He was fired summarily. I forgot to ask, what does summarily mean?
Right away.
Right here, right now, you're walking out. Do not pass go, clean out your locker. And if I have to, I'll call a cop to get you out of here. So he gets summarily fired. He does not get his job back. The next person, the Sarge, gets busted back to private, to firefighter. He gets a 10-day suspension. All the other members there that were involved in the planning or execution all get 10-day suspensions, except for rookies. The rookies were awarded enough money to cover their dry cleaning bill. Kind of get it? Yeah, I think they may have. So who knows? I know I would have. DC always has a collection of police officers close to fire stations. They're always looking for a clean restroom. They're always looking for a cup of coffee. They want to use the phone. They need a place to type. They need a computer. And they go into the refrigerator. I haven't seen many cops here. The other day, we had a shooting in front of Central or headquarters, Station 1. And about 4 cops showed up. Yeah, they popped in for a second or two. Was that this platoon? Was that this shift? No. At any rate, the person was shot at a casino and walked down. So all good, kind of interesting. But if a cop would have walked in at that time, looking for a cup of coffee, did I already say that? It kind of runs together after doing it 3 times in a row. What would the police officer been obligated to do?
Shoot him.
Shoot him. Take him out. Take him out. Heaven forbid the chiefs would have crashed, like I mentioned. Dial 911. So many things could have gone wrong. So again, this film will live on forever too. Gwinnett County uses it. They saw it on the internet. They copied it. Gwinnett County Fire Department uses it in their recruit training. This is what you can't do. Talk with the officers. This is what you can't do. Rubin has a copy of it, so I take it around the country and show it. This is what you can't do. KCKFD accepts all, includes all, tolerates all, and embraces diversity. Again, I'm urging you to please go to those classes next month. If it's painful, tell me about it, but I don't think it will be. I think you'll really engage. If I haven't mentioned it, we've invited fire departments, surrounding fire departments, police department, and sheriffs. It's going to be a great blend of people. You get a lot of ideas. I'm hoping you have fun, and I'm promising you, Byron is a great instructor. This is DC Fire Department. We're not going to have time to thread it up, so you're welcome to take a picture. DC in April has a customer, well, I guess who's a criminal, probably some type of dependency, probably drug or alcohol. He strikes the lieutenant. The lieutenant runs a company, again, same process, 4 platoons, 1 captain, 3 lieutenants, if you're doing the math. Once the former patient strikes the lieutenant, they unleash fury, and I mean fury, and I mean unnecessary, over the top. They were indicted, and they were just arraigned a couple days ago. What does indictment mean? They're facing criminal prosecution. They're all on leave without pay. They beat that man within an inch of his life. I mean, they just pulverized him. Now, am I asking you to be a doormat for anyone? No, never have, never will, ain't gonna buy it, don't do it. However, there's a difference between pushing someone away, even if they took 1 punch and were face to face, we handle it just like we handle everything. That is, we go out bumper to bumper, check off everything that was right or wrong. Pumper's old, it was a 2002 model, it's rusted, it's got this, it's got that. Again, kind of truncating it. But when it was done, bottom line is, if the captain doesn't believe a piece of fire apparatus is worthy of driving it, do what? Don't drive it. If the drivers don't believe it's worthy of driving it, don't drive it. We're not asking you to do that. Never have. I never will. It's silly to even consider that. We'll get you a better fire truck. I'm not sure it'll be a new one. And we'll work on getting it fixed. But if you do it every other day, every time you come back to work and there's nothing wrong with it, that can be a problem too. So remember that. And I apologize. I've got 5 minutes. This is going to be on fire net. Doors always open, always ears for any kind of harassment. There's every kind of misbehaving, and then there's harassment, there's discrimination, and there is hazing that falls into a special category. You can take that to anybody at any time. I would recommend, instead of going down the chain, go up the chain. If you have to take the county administrator to. And the reason why the law points that out is, if I happen to be the person that's harassing you, that's discriminating against you, you're gonna take it up to anybody. Personal issues, doors always open. Tell me about your kids, your grandkids, tell me about the sporting events, etc. Standard complaints and tirades, however, try to go through the chain of command. So the firefighter is mad because for the last 3 days we've had tuna fish, and they hate tuna fish. Yep, probably doesn't rise to my level. Or we should have 1,000 feet of 5-inch and we only have 900. Pay the due respect to the captain, the battalion chief, the shift commander, and that is to run those kinds of things up the chain. But I do have an open door, and I mean it. Discipline is the last part we're going to talk about. The best discipline still is, and always will be, self-discipline. If you behave, what kind of problems will we have? None. I would also ask you to behave. Self-discipline when you're off duty as well. Please, please, please. Discipline is to change behaviors only. It's not about ego or power trip or anything even close to that, or getting even, or retaliating. Here's what I feel pretty strongly about. It should follow the hot stove rule. And here's the application of the hot stove. It's fair, non-biased, consistent, swift and timely, non-discriminatory, non-retaliation. Punishment fits the crime and the danger is understood by all. One thing that I realized that I left off my list there is once it's over, it's over. The stove does not hold a grudge against you. The stove doesn't know who you are. The stove's an inanimate object. What do you think about my little analogy? How in the world can the stove be fair, non-biased, consistent, and non-discriminating?
That's the same with everybody's.
So it doesn't matter whether I'm tall or short, whether I'm follically challenged or not, whether I'm black or whether I'm white, follically challenged, sorry, whether I'm male or female, it doesn't matter. Who's the stove going to harm? I was just teasing. Please forgive me. We're just trying to be funny. Who's the stove going to burn? Everybody. Swift and timely. So when you get burned by the stove, about 3 months later, you'll feel the burn? No. When do you get harmed? Pretty much instantaneously. The punishment fits the crime. That's a little harder to explain, but how? So if you touch it in a glancing blow, might not even get burned at all, maybe a tiny little blister. Rube, I put my big fat you-know-what, and I sit down on top of it and I burn mine. You get the point. So remember that. The part and punishment fits the crime. And the danger is pretty much understood by all. How so? How were you trained about a hot stove?
I know what you're doing.
And say it one more time.
I know what you're doing.
How were you trained about it? Yes.
Don't touch that stove.
By?
Mama tried.
Probably mama. For me at least, it was my mama that says, look here, little Denny, those cookies will be ready when I tell you so. We'll let them cool down, things will be good. But you have to test the system when you're about 7 years old and you get burned. But your mom usually taught you, correct? So known by all. Good way to do a business or not? Yeah, I think so. Now, discipline has got to do the most good for the department. What does the department want out of you? Right up there, solve the problem, make it go away, change the behavior, stop misbehaving. Make sense? Now, it should do the least harm to the member. If the member outperforms the ability for the least harm, can you do things that will get you fired? Can you do things that will get you fired summarily? And the answer is, of course, yes. Hopefully, if you behave, we'll never have to worry about it, but the system should do the most good for the department, fix the problem, the least harm to the member, and at the lowest level possible. So you're the captain or acting captain or wannabe captain, and a member has been here for 20 years. That member has done everything they're supposed to do and a little bit more, and they come in 3 minutes late. Take it from there. What do? Do you acknowledge it?
Yes.
Got to acknowledge, got to talk
Yes.
about it, yes. What does it sound like?
It's not recurring.
How do you start?
What's going on?
What's going on? Everything up good at home? You having any problems? No, no, no. In fact, it's a great day. It's beautiful weather. Thank the Lord for such an incredible day. What do you say? Okay, well, you know you can't come in late. You worked here for 20 years. You're a great employee. Please don't do it again. And it probably ends there, yes or no?
Yes.
Now, the recruit comes to see you because they're 3 minutes late. They've been with you for 4 months. What's that one sound like?
Kind of like saying the game was going on.
Say again?
Kind of like starting off the same. There's
Starts off the same. Can a recruit have a problem, a family problem, an issue? And the answer is yes, 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 of course. So we get through that and there's no problems. It's an incredible day. What a blessed day to be at work. Okay, then what do you do next?
kind of like more than
You know, you gotta be here on time. Most everything we do is based on you getting here, you relieving someone, not using overtime. Is that us?
Mr. Jackson is on phone.
Hello, Pump? Is my guy calling you? If we gotta go, I wanna go.
Mr. Senators. They're saying it's on phone.
Oh, you say, are you a medic unit today? Yeah. Be safe, be safe, be safe. So, with the recruit, you go through that routine, you probably remind them how important it is to go to work. You probably tell them things like, don't ever do it again. But to me, and again, every book you read and write, probably verbal reprimands truly, honestly, look more like training, don't they? So you encourage them. I'm gonna take it a little step further with the recruit member. I'm gonna look them in the eye, and I'm gonna say something on the order, do you have a wind-up alarm clock? Most of the new members won't even know what that is. Then I'm gonna ask them, do you have $10? Then I'm gonna say, we're gonna get on Old Red, we're gonna go, what's Old Red? Big Red, Old Red. We're going to go to Walmart, we're gonna find a baby bend, $9.99. We're gonna show you how to use a wind-up alarm clock. I might even do that routine twice. The third time, they're probably getting written up. They're getting closer and closer to causing you a problem. Yes, captains, acting captains, wanna-be captains. So again, I was hoping that made sense. Be nice, it's empowerment, take care of the community. We're already on overtime. How come when we have a crash, it's almost always on the officer's side? Stop at red lights and stop signs. Before you can blast a stop sign, I'm begging you, have control of the intersection. We've beat up 2 ambulances. One was in a T-bone. I'm not even sure the other one was involved, but neither one are available. One just went out today or yesterday to North Carolina 3 or 4 months before it comes back. The other one still isn't back yet. Don't break up the stuff. And one of the things that I can assure you, most accidents happen in intersections, so slow down. I am at this station, hanging out on Sunday, brought some donuts 2 Sundays ago, they gotta run. And the first time we go through a red light, Rube has a small heart attack. But when I get up to where the pump heavy rescue is, boy, they call it the Great Plains for a reason. You can see 100 miles in any direction. It is flat as a pancake. It's very clear that they knew that intersection was without any traffic, without any people. Thumbs up or not? To me, it felt really good, very nice. We get to the next one. We're going up 110th Street. Can't tell you the first one, but it was one of the ones where you can see in all directions. Then the next one, I think, had a couple of buildings, and I know they had 2 or 3 cars. They came to a full stop. High five. So maintain control. Stop at red lights, stop at stop signs when you cannot see the oncoming traffic, just as a reminder. 10 miles over the speed limit max, non-emergency when possible, have a spotter backing. Drive slower rather than faster. The slower I go, the quicker I get there. What does that mean? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. When you have a wreck, you never get there. So yeah, think through that. First arriving should advise other units if you can. Maybe you're not ready to put them all back to service. The other day they called in, they had a burn barrel in the backyard, let them come in until I confirm. is perfect, non-emergency, really good stuff. Ramp speed 5 max, don't have a crash on your ramp. Wear your seatbelt and report fit for duty. What does that mean? Is sober part of that? Well rested, hydrated, capable, you get the idea. Comments or questions, and we're already on overtime. Just another 3 minutes and they could have caught it all. Comments, anybody, questions? Did we do okay? Please take your card, humor me at least, put it in your pocket. I'll give you extras if you want. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.